Now I see that some ratings came out. We're going to get into some more numbers. Don't worry. Shout out to you, Mike Allen. Unrivaled ratings from Friday. 20,000 and 30,000 estimated viewers. I believe this is for the 18 to 49 demographic. This is bad. In my opinion, WNBA and the hype around it and its players have nosedived.
20,000 viewers. That's what Unrivaled pulled on Friday night on True TV. To put that in perspective, reruns of The Big Bang Theory on cable routinely get 10 times that number. And this is supposed to be the league that's revolutionizing women's basketball. Founded by two of the biggest names in the WNBA. So what's actually happening here?
Unrivaled from Friday, January 23rd. They kind of redid how they showcase these ratings now. The website that I usually use, they don't give me the totality anymore. Now, instead of millions of viewers, now they just say the total viewership rank. If you guys remember, last year, that would give us a total number. So from Friday, January 23rd, Unrivaled missed on TNT, 30,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demographic, and 131st in total viewership ranking. If you compare that to real time with Bill Maher, 30,000, same amount in the 18 to 49 demographic, but 19th in total viewership rank.
Here's what makes those numbers particularly brutal. Last year, Unrivaled's third and fourth week games were pulling between 40,000 and 190,000 total viewers. This year in that same time frame, they're estimating somewhere between 80,000 and 150,000, depending on which network carried the game. That's not growth. That's a collapse. And it directly contradicts the narrative that's being pushed about this league's momentum.
From multipliers. So the TNT multiplier would be 4 to 5, and the True TV would probably be somewhere around 2 to 3. How am I getting these multipliers? Well, I'm just taking last year's numbers. Last year we have Unrivaled, the Laces versus the Owls, 50,000 to 18 to 49 demographic, 190,000 viewers. Phantom versus the Rose, 30,000 in the 18 to 49 demographic, 140,000 viewers. So as you can see, even throwing a 5x multiplier.
The multiplier analysis matters because of how these networks report their data. TNT typically shows a 4 to 5 times multiplier between the 18 to 49 demographic number and total viewership. True TV runs closer to 2 to 3 times. So when you see 30,000 in the demo on TNT, you're looking at roughly 120,000 to 150,000 total viewers. When you see 20,000 on True TV, that's maybe 60,000 to 80,000 people actually watching. And even using the most generous possible estimates, they're down significantly year over year.
Now, based on those numbers that I just showed you, it would be reasonable to assume that they are losing viewers. They've lost viewers. People have turned it off. They're not growing. They've lost viewers.
Now compare that trajectory to the UFL, which is professional football's startup league. In its second season this year, the UFL saw viewership drop 20%. That's a normal sophomore slump for a new sports property. Unrivaled is down 47% through 16 games. That's not a slump. That's a freefall. And it raises a fundamental question about whether the initial interest was genuine enthusiasm for the product or just curiosity that's now been satisfied.
Unrivaled's long game is paying off. Revenue, reach, and fan demand surge in season 2. This is an article by Melanie Vanderveer. I'm sure she got paid handsomely for this. Unrivaled. The professional women's basketball league, started by WNBA star Napheesa, Collier, and Breanna Stewart, is showing strong momentum in its second season. Significant gains across revenue, viewership, merchandise, and fan engagement is going strong, reinforcing the league's long-term vision. Unrivaled's highly anticipated second season began 2 weeks ago, and the numbers don't lie. It's an article from the 15th. According to league sources, Unrivaled is on track. Before we finish that, let me just add the qualifier here. The viewership numbers that I brought up from last year were in week 3 to week 4 of Unrivaled. I didn't pick late in the season. I tried to be as fair as I could be possible. As fair as I possibly could be. I tried my best. I'm just letting you guys know. I'm not trying to hoe Unrivaled, for lack of a better term.
But here's where it gets interesting. While viewership is cratering, we're simultaneously getting articles celebrating the league's success. This piece from The Blast, published on January 15th, claims Unrivaled is on track to surpass $40 million in revenue this season. That's a 48% increase from last year. Social media views and impressions are up 27% compared to opening weekend last year. Merchandise sales are up 54%. The article literally says the numbers don't lie. Except the numbers do lie, or at minimum, they're telling a very selective story. Revenue is not profit. When you add 2 new teams, expand to more arena dates, increase your game schedule, and add a 4th night of programming, of course your revenue goes up. You've got more inventory to sell, more tickets to move, more broadcast windows to fill. But are you actually making money? That's the question nobody wants to answer yet.
Proving that the league has what it takes for longevity and continued growth across the board. Look at some numbers. According to league sources shared exclusively with The Blast, Unrivaled is on track to surpass $40 million in revenue this season. Okay, well, we have 2 new teams. So you got new teams, you got more games, you got more nights. You're going to Philly. You've added more seats in the arena. Okay.
The social media numbers reveal something even more telling. Opening weekend views and impressions up 27%, engagement rising 6.6%. The article specifically notes this reflects the league's highlight-driven approach. Read that again. Highlight-driven, not game-driven, not appointment viewing. Highlights. People are clicking on Twitter clips and Instagram posts, but they're not turning on the actual game. That's the exact same death spiral the NBA is currently experiencing, where Adam Silver has publicly acknowledged they've become a highlight league instead of a must-watch product.
Opening weekend. Okay, so you guys are getting more clicks and engagement on Twitter and Instagram. That those same people that are clicking away on the posts are still refusing to turn on the game. Interesting. Okay. Engagement rising 6.6%, reflecting the league's highlight-driven approach. Oh, so it's a highlight league. Oh, okay. It's not a sit down and watch the full game league. It's a highlight league. The same thing that's been detrimental to the NBA. Adam Silver even coming out saying, it's a highlight league. You don't gotta watch the games, just catch the highlight leagues. Merchandise sales are also on the rise, up 54% compared to the same period last season.
The merchandise sales claim is equally suspicious when you examine it critically. Yes, sales are up 54% compared to the same period last season. But last season, Unrivaled had 6 teams. This season, they have 8. That's 33% more teams, which means 33% more jerseys, hoodies, and branded gear to sell. So a 54% increase isn't actually that impressive when you've expanded your product line by a third. And more importantly, if viewership is down nearly 50%, that means you don't have new fans buying this merchandise. You have the same core group of existing fans from last year buying more stuff. That's not growth. That's extraction.
We have some updates, some news, some numbers regarding Unrivaled ratings. They also say that they're making $40 million in revenue. In case Napheesa, Collier, and Breanna Stewart, just in case you guys don't know, that's not profit. It's $40 million in revenue. Now, are you going to make profits this season? Perhaps. But let's not do backflips just yet.
Let's go back to the actual viewing data, because the pattern is consistent across multiple nights. Friday, January 23rd, 2 Unrivaled games. The first game on TNT pulled 30,000 in the 18-49 demo and ranked 131st in total viewership for the night. The second game, also on TNT, pulled 30,000 in the demo but ranked 125th overall. Then on True TV, a third game managed just 20,000 in the demo and ranked 129th for total viewership. Saturday, January 24th, 2 more games. TNT game pulled 30,000 viewers, ranked 100. True TV game pulled 20,000, ranked 167th. Notice what's happening there. Real Time with Bill Maher on HBO pulled the exact same 30,000 viewers in the 18-49 demographic as Unrivaled's best game that weekend. But Maher ranked 110th in total viewership, while Unrivaled ranked 100. That massive gap tells you that Unrivaled's audience skews extremely young and small. while Mars' audience is broader and deeper. The demo number matches, but the total audience is completely different. That's a problem when you're trying to sell this as a mainstream sports property.
Hearing the league is now down 47% after 16 games on TNT and True TV. League did add a fourth night this season. Recent startup comparison in its second season in 2025, UFL saw a 20% drop. So the UFL saw a 20% drop, and Unrivaled has seen a 47% drop. Okay, fair enough.
The sophomore season comparison is particularly damning because it eliminates the novelty factor. Year one of any new sports league benefits from curiosity. People tune in to see what it is. Some percentage of those curious viewers become actual fans who return, but the majority don't. They satisfied their curiosity and moved on. That's normal. What's not normal is losing nearly half your audience in year two. That suggests the product isn't connecting with viewers in a sustainable way. And before anyone claims it's just a cable TV problem, that everything's moving to streaming anyway. Remember that these same networks successfully broadcast NBA and NHL games to much larger audiences. The distribution platform isn't the issue. The product is.
Now, I'm going to be generous here. Yes, that's right. Generosity goes a long way. I'm going to give Unrivaled the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to speculate some of these total numbers. I'm going to give it a 4 to 5x multiplier. So if we see 30,000, somewhere between 120 and 150. If we see 20,000, somewhere between 80 and 100. If we see 50,000, somewhere between 200,000 and 250,000. But if we're factoring in TNT and True TV,
here's the fundamental disconnect that nobody wants to address directly. Unrivaled was sold as the solution to the WNBA's off-season problem. The best players in the world were going overseas to play in Russia, Turkey, and China because that's where the money was. Unrivaled would keep them stateside, pay them well, give them premium exposure, and build the sport domestically during the winter months. That was the pitch. Breanna, Stewart, and Napheesa Collier, two of the league's biggest stars, put their names and reputations behind it. But if viewership is collapsing in year two, and the league is burning through investor money to maintain operations, while claiming revenue growth that doesn't translate to profitability, what exactly is being built here? Because it's starting to look less like a sustainable business, and more like a vanity project propped up by WNBA hype that's rapidly dissipating.
I guess when new fans come, you should welcome them instead of treating them like you did. Let's get into some numbers, shall we?
The question about whether anyone you know actually watches Unrivaled isn't rhetorical, it's diagnostic. Because if this league had genuine mainstream traction, you'd hear people talking about it. You'd see games on in sports bars. You'd have casual conversations at work about last night's matchup. That's what happens with sports properties that connect with audiences. Instead, Unrivaled exists primarily in press releases and social media highlight clips consumed by a small core of dedicated fans who were already deeply invested in women's basketball. That's not expansion, that's preaching to the converted. And the converted are apparently getting bored. Based on these viewership trends.
Again, you have two new teams, so you have more merchandise. But we also took a look at the viewers, and there's no new fans. They're losing fans. So are the same fans from last year that just happened to stick around, are they just buying more shit this year? Are they just buying more jerseys and more clothes and more hoodies and more sweatshirts and more sweatpants? I'm interested to know. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, that would mean so much to me. See you next time, and as always.
So let's synthesize what we're actually seeing here. Unrivaled launched with significant buzz, celebrity ownership, major network distribution deals, and the best players in women's basketball. Year one drew respectable, if unspectacular, viewership numbers, with games typically pulling between 40,000 and 190,000 viewers in weeks 3 and 4. The league declared it a success and immediately expanded for year two, adding 2 more teams and a 4th night of programming. Year 2 arrives, and the bottom falls out. Viewership crashes by 47%, Games that used to draw 150,000 viewers are now pulling 80,000 or less. The Friday night True TV slot is getting 20,000 viewers, which is barely above public access television numbers. Multiple games are ranking outside the top 200 programs for their night, meaning they're being beaten by cable news reruns, reality show marathons, and syndicated sitcoms from the night. But instead of acknowledging the viewership crisis, the league and its media allies pivot to talking about revenue growth and social media engagement. 40 million in revenue sounds impressive, until you remember that revenue isn't profit, and they've significantly increased their operating costs by expanding to 8 teams and adding more broadcast nights. Social media impressions up 27%. Sounds great until you realize those same people engaging with highlights aren't watching the actual games, which is the only metric that matters for long-term sustainability. The merchandise sales increase gets explained away by simple math. You added 33% more teams, so of course you're selling more jerseys, but you didn't add 33% more fans, because viewership is down 47%. That means your existing fans are buying more stuff, not that you've expanded your customer base. Any business analyst would tell you that's a red flag, not a success story. The comparison to the UFL makes this even more stark. Professional football startup league saw a normal 20% sophomore decline. Unrivaled more than doubled that decline rate. And football is dealing with competition from the NFL, college football, and decades of established viewing habits. Unrivaled is operating in the winter when there's no WNBA competition, and it still can't maintain its audience. What does this mean for the league's future? Well, venture capital has a limited patience for businesses that burn money without a clear path to profitability. At some point, the investors backing Unrivaled are going to want to see actual returns, not press releases about revenue growth that doesn't translate to profit. And if viewership continues declining in year 3, those investors are going to start asking hard questions about whether this model is viable. The bigger concern is what this says about the WNBA's broader audience problem. The narrative coming out of last season was that Caitlin Clark had transformed women's basketball into a mainstream product with massive crossover appeal. Record ratings, sold-out arenas, unprecedented media coverage. The sport was finally breaking through, except Unrivaled doesn't have Caitlin Clark. And suddenly the audience evaporates. That suggests the interest was in one specific player, not in women's basketball as a product. And that's a sustainability problem the league needs to confront honestly. Breanna Stewart and Napheesa Collier are 2 of the most accomplished players in WNBA history. Multiple championships, MVP awards, Olympic gold medals. They're legitimate superstars within the sport, but they can't draw viewers to Unrivaled. Kelsey Plum, one of the league's most popular players, can't draw viewers. Arike Ogunbowale, who hit one of the most famous shots in women's basketball history, can't draw viewers. The star power is there, the production quality is there, the network distribution is there, but the audience isn't showing up. At what point does the league acknowledge that maybe the product itself isn't connecting with viewers? That maybe the 3-on-3 format, or the compressed schedule, or the lack of traditional team rivalries, or whatever the specific issue is, just isn't resonating. Because you can't market your way out of a product problem. And right now all the evidence suggests Unrivaled has a product problem, not a marketing problem. The highlight-driven engagement strategy is particularly concerning because it's the same trap the NBA fell into. Adam Silver has publicly stated that the NBA's challenge is getting people to watch full games instead of just consuming highlights on social media. Once your sport becomes a highlight product, you've lost the battle for appointment viewing. And appointment viewing is what drives the broadcast rights deals that fund everything else. If Unrivaled is already admitting they're a highlight-driven league in just year 2, that's a massive strategic problem. So where does this leave us? With a league that's burning investor money, losing viewers at an alarming rate, and trying to spin the narrative by highlighting revenue growth that doesn't account for increased costs or path to profitability. With a sport that appears to have a serious star power problem outside of one generational talent, who isn't even participating in this league, and with media coverage that refuses to honestly assess what's happening, instead publishing puff pieces that cherry-pick metrics to paint a success story that the actual viewership data completely contradict. The $40 million revenue claim will look very different when we see the actual financial statements at the end of the season. How much did it cost to operate 8 teams instead of 6? How much did the additional broadcast night cost in production expense? How much are they paying the players in this expanded format? What are the facility costs for going to Philadelphia? Revenue means nothing without context about expenses. And nobody's providing that context because the numbers probably don't look good. This isn't about rooting against women's basketball or wanting Unrivaled to fail. It's about honest assessment of what's actually happening versus what we're being told is happening. The viewership data is public. The year-over-year comparisons are straightforward. The rankings against other cable programming are clear. Unrivaled is struggling badly in year 2. And no amount of press releases about social media engagement can change that fundamental reality. The question now is whether the league can course correct, or whether this becomes another cautionary tale about sports startups that looked great on paper but couldn't build a sustainable audience. Because if year 3 shows another 40–50% decline, there won't be a year 4. Investors don't fund businesses that lose half their customers every year, no matter how good the revenue projections look on a spreadsheet. So when you see these articles celebrating Unrivaled success, ask yourself, if the league is doing so well, why are the ratings collapsing? If the product is so compelling, why are fewer people watching than last year? If this is the future of women's basketball, why does that future look like 20,000 people watching on a Friday night? The answers to those questions matter a lot more than whatever spin the league's PR team is putting out this week.